the show. We about to chop it up. Come to the show. We got some things we can talk about. Come to the show. We about to chop it up. Come to the show. We got some things we can talk about. Chop it up. Chop it, chop it, chop it, chop it up. Chop it. We got some things we can talk about. Chop it up. Chop it, chop it, chop it up. Chop it up. Chop it. We got some things we can talk about.
You are now tuned in to the Chop Shop with your host, Pastor Marvin McKenstry Jr. Let's chop it up.
Good evening and welcome to the Chop Shop. As he said, I'm your host, Pastor Marvin McKenstry Jr. Excited as always to bring you good kingdom content. We are the platform and the place where the kingdom and the community connect, and that cannot be exemplified more than it is tonight in our very special guest, one of my father figures and mentors in the kingdom of God, the one and only. He's the Bishop of Park Heights and Belvedere. Not just the Lord's Church. He's the Bishop of Park Heights, the man of God himself, great man of God. Bishop Kevia Elliott is with us tonight. But before we get to that, I got to bring on my right hand and my left hand, my main man, Mr. Shaka Pitts on the ones and twos, making the magic happen behind the scenes. Techniques 1200s, because anything else is uncivilized. Shock, what it do, good man?
How you doing, sir?
Man, listen, I figured we're gonna tell the other side of the story tonight. In these Witcher comes, they talking about the violence that's continuing to come out, man. But listen, we got so many things that are happening contrary to the violence in the community. We are almost at that point, y'all. We're about to cross the threshold of 11 months murder-free, nonviolent shooting-free in the Po Homes community, the place that I call home. And I'm excited about it, man, because the power of God first and foremost, and then some good work by brothers in the community is making this thing happen. I'm wondering why I ain't been interviewed yet, Shaq.
Hey, Mo. Yeah, man.
Why they ain't coming knocking on my? They know. I'm telling you, they know. Why they ain't coming knocking on my door, man? That's all.
They know, Mo. They know, good
brother.
Oh
my goodness, man! Listen, I'm excited. Y'all keep my community in prayer because y'all, we are gonna cross this 1 year threshold, and God is bringing people together that have never sat at the table before and doing some things to unify. I'm not talking about more than just my community right now, because I could shout out my good man, my homeboy, my brother Eric Brown up there in Northeast Baltimore where he's at. I think they're a little bit ahead of us. I think we get ready to cross 11 months and they are a little closer to a year. But y'all gonna see the celebrations, man. There's some good things, good work that's happening in Baltimore City, and we gonna do what we gotta do to give God the glory at the appointed time. All right, with that being said, y'all, we're going to go ahead and get into these church announcements. Y'all, we don't have a lot, but we got some strong ones that we want you to pay attention to. As always, we start this thing off with the Stop the Beef hotline. Y'all, there's a number that you can call, that direct intervention, whether that intervention needs to pay a bill, pay a debt, put somebody on the bus, relocate them, save a life. Y'all see the number going across the ticker, at the bottom of the screen. That's this good green smoothie. You see the number going across the bottom of the screen. When you call that number, there's a man on the other end that's going to answer, and men will respond. We want to make sure that people do not have to die in the streets of Baltimore to settle petty beefs. So we want to give them an alternative, whether it's mediation, whether it's coming in, like I said before, putting our money together to pay a debt. The Men of the We Are Us Men's movement are committed to making sure that Baltimore is a safer place. Protect your sons and your daughters to create a Baltimore for them and you. So call that number and make sure that we can come and we can make a difference. What else we got, Shot?
Give me a second, Marv.
All right, I'm going to give him a second. And while I'm giving him a second, I'm going to talk about the one thing that walks hand in hand with the Stop the Beef hotline, and that is the 10-point agreement that we came up with in the community. We're going to get to that. The 10-point agreement that we came up in the community where brothers have made the commitment that if, in fact, they got to eat in the streets, meaning they got to get out here and try to find a hustle to make a living, they don't have to die in the streets. That's right, y'all. We talking about the Baltimore Peace Agreement. This thing was forged by people who are 10 toes down, some folks behind the walls, some in the community to just say, listen, we can do what we got to do in peace until we can do something different. So if the Baltimore Peace Agreement has not made its way to you, there it is. If the Baltimore Peace Agreement has not made its way, that's why I got the best producer in the game. The Baltimore Peace Agreement has not made its way to you, your community, where your church is, and you know that there's a need to get it there. These brothers, believe it or not, they honor their word. So those that have signed off and said, man, we are committed to this process, we're committed to doing something different, they're keeping their commitment. So make sure you reach out to the men of the We Are Us men's movement, and we will come to your community and bring this peace agreement and talk to those brothers that people are trying to pray off the corner but won't go talk to. I ain't going to mess with that tonight, Shaka. They trying to send Jesus down to the corner. He said, you go ye therefore. Wednesdays, I need you to tap into us on Zoom.
They trying to, oh man, they trying to send my man. They trying to send my man Christ down to the corner, man.
Go to the hospital. Go down to the corner. Go where the prostitute. No, he said you go.
You go, good brother.
You go. That's why we got Bishop Kevia Elliott tonight, man. This man will roll up his sleeves and walk Park Heights by himself. But we gonna leave that alone. 6 o'clock on Wednesdays, we doing something new in Victory. Instead of our what we call Bible study, we having what we call Sundays in Review. God laid it on my heart not to assume that people who hear me preach get the entirety of the message. So our Bible study normally mirrors or echoes, I like the term echo a little better, what was preached on Sunday. If I preach like this past Sunday, I preached from the parable known as the prodigal son, right? I came right back on Wednesday and I did a breakdown teaching in our Bible study session on that very same thing that highlighted listen, if you want to get some word where you can dig into the word and you can play with it, we send out the message, the points, the scriptures, and all of that so people can come sit down and have a dialogue. It's called Sundays in Review with Pastor Marvin. So make sure you come on through. All right, what else we got, Shot? Unity Walk. That's on Monday. We are going to be coming out of 5020 Park Heights Avenue. That should be 5010. Well, both addresses belong to him because he's the bishop of Park Heights and Belvedere. But the Lord's Church, the man of God who's with us tonight, we're going to be meeting there Monday night at 6 p.m. Remember, y'all, this is a men's only walk because we're going up in them trenches and it's going to get dark and we don't want to have to protect our sisters. We're not minimizing what you're capable of doing, but we want to make sure that it's the men on Mondays. All right, what else we got, Shop? Oh, my goodness. Sunday at 3 p.m., come on through Victory House Worship Center, 1063 West Fair Street in the Lord's Sanctuary. Holla at your boy. We're going to be sitting there celebrating 3 years. Y'all, listen, I had a problem when they first started talking to me about anniversaries, but after braving a mold crisis in the first year of ministry, 2-year pandemic in the second and third year ministry, losing my grandmother and all of the shifts that God has kept us through, we ain't celebrating me for real. We celebrating the perseverance and endurance that God has given me as he's been my keeper. And our guest preacher has been the same for all 3 years, Dr. Kevin Daniels, who literally comes and prophetically shifts us into what is to come. So come on through 3 p.m. on Sunday. While we're here, we want to announce we will not be having a morning service. We'll be all coming together at 3 p.m. on Sunday. Come on through and celebrate with your boy. I promise I'm going to cry, I'm going to dance, I'm going to do all of that, but God is going to get all the glory. All right, y'all, the Community Resource Fair and Walk on this weekend, Saturday, June 25th at 10 a.m. The walk starts at 12, and it's going to be from the Church of the Redeemed of the Lord, where our good, strong brother, Dr. Rodell Hall, is in charge of the men's ministry, and we know that the great pastor, a great bishop of the Church of the Redeemed of the Lord, Bishop Jerome Stokes, a man who rolls up his sleeves and get out in the community, just like our very special guest tonight. Y'all, we want y'all to come through. There's going to be resources for the people, and we are going to love on our people. I might even come on through there. Saturday's been a little tight for me with the baby, but I might actually make it out. So listen, I want y'all to come through. Everything starts at 10 a.m. The walk is going to start at 12. Come on through and be blessed. If you're not there to get blessed, come on through and be a blessing. Church of the Redeemed of the Lord, 4321 Old York Road, Baltimore, Maryland, 21212. All right, y'all. All that said and done. Listen, you in for it tonight. Y'all, if you caught the show the last time the man of God was with us, you know he takes no tea for the fever. He brings wisdom and years and years and years and years and years of practical exercise of being a church without walls, of being a leader beyond his pulpit. He's embraced me. He embraced my family during the time of us, my grandmother's transition. We were going to have way more people than what my church can hold. He opened up his doors in love and never asked us for anything but to just be grateful. He ain't even asked me that. That's just what I do. I'm talking about he's a father figure in my life. He speaks wisdom, gives me the nuggets, words of encouragement. He holds on tight to me, and I am absolutely in love with this man of God. We have with us tonight the bishop and senior pastor of the Lord's Church, 5010 Parkhouse Avenue, the one and only Bishop Kevia Elliott. Bishop, thanks for being with us again tonight.
It is our pleasure. It is our pleasure. I'm going to respond to your little note about the corner singing Jesus. Hear my sin.
Listen. Shaka, the man's necktie and pocket square game is the toughest I ever seen in the world. But beyond that, brother, you know, through the pandemic, he had the necktie, the pocket square, and the matching face. Well, we give a few of these bishops the blues because, man, they just sharper than any knife you got in your drawer. Him and Dr. Kevin Daniels. Bishop, you know I absolutely love you, man. Thank you for being with us again tonight. We're going to have a real hot conversation, and I'm going to pull on you tonight because I need that wisdom that always comes out of you into my life to hit these airwaves. We're talking about kingdom fatherhood. You are one of the best that I've ever witnessed with my own eyes do it because as much as your title suggests apostolic father, your humility says, give me that broom. I'll roll up my sleeves and sweep. Come here, young man. I'll walk these streets and I'll speak into your life. You're a coach. You do so many different things. The balance of being an apostolic father with legitimate credentials, yet being somebody who still cares enough about the community to walk the streets at night. What does it take to be that guy?
It's simple. We're not caught up into the title itself. It's basic. Someone asked me a question similar to that a long time ago, Marvin. He said, how do you do what you do? What I do is do the best I can in the day. Then I go home and go to sleep. I don't worry about what I don't do. I do the best that I can in the day. And it is a juggling act. Sometimes from being in the school, being on the corners, doing the church work and dealing with my membership. And, you know, I'm a hands-on pastor. I'm not a pastor that, just try to send my members somewhere else. I'm there for them. And it's just who I am. And when you and I met, we hit it off because it's what the Lord called us to do together as it relates to bringing the kingdom together. This is more than me. It's more than you. It's bigger than us. This is about God bringing his kingdom together. I like what you said because I grew up in the Baptist church and, I used to hear the prayers. Lord, go to the hospital. Lord, go to the corner. Jesus, we sending you. And he said, I'm sending you. Amen. And so I've taken that as a man. I just finished today and actually I'm tired, Marvin. I don't know if I'm gonna have the energy that I had last time when I was on the show, but I'm tired. I was out there stuffing the bag with lettuce. We gave away food and somebody had to stuff the bag with lettuce. And I just took on a job. Whatever is needed for kingdom success, that's what you're gonna find me doing. I don't care what it is. I do toilets, I sweep, trash up on Sunday morning. Some people ride by, see me in my collar, say, what you doing out here? I'm working. I'm a servant. And I think one of the things we miss as it relates to ministry sometimes is the servant attitude. The title minister within itself means servant. And so we just desire to serve. So the balancing of this thing is all up to God. It's not up to me. Do I get tired? Of course. I'm human. But when I get tired, I go home and lay down. I don't pull no punches, pull no strings. If I can do it, Marvin, I will. If I can't, I let my yay be yay and my nay be nay. But I'm excited for the journey. I mean, you're talking about 3 years that the Lord has given you to ministry. In July, we'll celebrate, the Lord willing, on July, the first Sunday in July, 33 years of pastoring.
My God.
And doing what the Lord has called me to do. And I'm excited. I talked to the Snowball Man. And matter of fact, I got to talk to you after this sidebar. Snowball Man on Park Ice today. That, he was like, you got to hook me up. You got to get with me. I was like, I'm going to get with you. I have a personal relationship with some of these guys that I walk the streets and they know who I am until, that turnover comes. And then I have to reacquaint myself or get acquainted with the new guys. Because when I walk up the streets and they say, I got them blues and reds, and I say, do you know who I am? And then one, I'm going to say, that's the guy from down the street. That's the pastor. Don't go there with him. And so it's just a matter of, it's simple for me. And I don't have a pious type faith where I, can just put it all in the box, but it's simple for me. It's availability. Here am I. Send me. And I'm going to do what you tell me to do.
Well, Bishop, I really wanted to have this conversation with you because, in my prayer life, God shows me things, and the way that God allows me to view his word. And I dub myself on Instagram as the urban theologian because God literally allows me to see his word manifest as the kingdom and the community collide. And one of the things that we see in both the community and in the kingdom is absenteeism of fathering, right? That you are a father figure in my life. I told you, you called me for a long time your little big brother, but I'm clear of what your voice is in my life and how I need to respect and address you in order for me to receive what God has for me. But when we look at the kingdom and the community, one of the things that parallels is a problem with true fatherhood and the calamity in the community and the calamity in church spaces mirrors each other because of that absenteeism. Can you speak to the necessity that we have true fatherhood in both the kingdom and the community?
Well, yeah, and let me kind of go a little bit back, because first is order, Marvin, and the thing is we not follow the order of God. And when you think about fatherhood, and you think about the man that God has placed as the head of the family, so I go biblical. I don't go with this world stuff. I go straight biblical. There is an order. There should be husband, wife, then children. When you turn that order upside down, you're messing with the spirituality that God has placed for us to follow. I have been doing this again for 38 years in the ministry and been teaching folk that you got to walk in order. I think we want stuff, but we want to do it sometimes the way we want to do it. Instead, you just said it. If it's not word, eventually it's going to crumble. It's going to fall apart. And so it must be based on words. So I was thinking about that because you talked about, fatherhood, what we're going to talk about. A great father is a family leader that has a great woman by his side. Now, without question, and I salute the elect lady of the Lord's church. We thank God for her life and what, the Lord is doing. We've been through our ups and downs, our struggles, but both of us have committed to the vow that we've made. And I said that I was going to be the priest of that home, the head that God had called me to be, and that I would be there in thick and thin and through it all. And I've done that, and I've committed myself to that. And what I see is the byproduct of now 3 children who are doing great, doing well, doing the Lord's work, because that's been sown in their lives. As I said before, they don't see one thing on Sunday and hear one thing on Sunday and see something else during the week. It is important. It is of the utmost importance that we, as especially the heads of ministry, show the leadership, especially as those of us who are called as fathers, to the men who are part of our congregations. Many of them have come in an out of order sense. And what I've done to some men is said, we got to go back and get order. We've got to restore order, because you cannot get peace from chaos. And we think that we can do sometimes what we want to do and walk the way we want to walk, and we're going to have the blessings of the Lord. That's not true. We've got to walk in order. So the thing about fatherhood is, and I want to say this to men who, and some young boys, please, I said this to my ministry a long time ago, and excuse me if I'm too raw sometimes. We must first think with the right head. See, the problem is we think with the wrong head. That head gets us in trouble and places us in a position that we're not really right for, or ready for, or ripe for. And that causes problem. And if you look at it, Marvin, it's a cycle of viciousness. It continues and continues. His father was missing, so my father is missing, and the next father is missing, because we're out of order. And so in order for fathership, the father to be what he ought to be, we have to be in biblical order. Husband, wife, children, and then we grow together. We're built together. Do you realize that family is the foundation of the Christian experience? And many times all we have, or sometimes I should say, what we have in churches are broken families, dysfunctional families. So we are scared to talk about that because we don't want to chase people away. But in order to get the family together, we must address the issues that have plagued us for many years. Understanding our plight is one of chaos, because we are not walking in the order of God. And when you don't walk in the order of God, you're going to get what you get. You get some good things here and there. Matter of fact, the enemy sets you up. He wants you to believe that you're succeeding when really you're pushing your way toward failure. There's a fine line between failure and success. And one said, you don't know until you get there. And so we have to understand that the order is important for this piece of fatherhood to be where it ought to be. I am the father that I am because I've walked in order. Some people say, well, you made mistakes. You did that. It's not about you making mistakes. The question is, are you walking in the order of God? Are you willing to do what God has called you to do? I might make mistakes, but I don't live a mistake-ridden life. And even so, if I make a mistake, I confess it and move on, because there is order in this thing. And so what I'm saying, Marvin, if we're going to get this thing together right with fatherhood, we got to walk in order. We got to admit. Yeah, go.
Let me give you this one, because you talked about biblical, being at it from a biblical approach. And one of the things that's been under attack with these terms like toxic masculinity and all gender roles being vilified and all that sort of thing is biblical manhood. Would you, in your wisdom, say biblical manhood is the starting point for biblical fatherhood?
Yes, without question. I mean, we go to the Bible simply. You train in the way that they should go. And when they're older, then they do not depart. So you have to be brought up in this. You have to be nurtured in this. You have to grow in this. You have to accept this. And as you do that, that part of the kingdom comes out of you. Look, Marvin, it's not nothing that we get up and say we're going to do. We yield to what's in us. That's important. Not to have your agenda or your plan. We hear it all the time, but do we do it? Not my will, but thy will be done. And so the mandate for us to do what we're called to do is already there. All we have to do is tap into it. Are we willing to say, I submit to your plan, God, whatever it is for this day? Whatever you want me to do, I'm willing to submit to that plan, because I really know that that plan trumps any plan that is out here, no matter how good it looks. It is the biblical part of this.
Well, Bishop, let me throw this one at you. I had a young man came to my church, and he had legitimate ministry credentials. And he literally kept asking me, when was I going to let him preach? And I told him I was going to let him preach when he get a job. I felt like his life focus needed to be on being able to get a job and provide for his daughter, rather than worrying about jumping up and down in the pulpit. I believe, and I want you to correct me if I'm wrong, that many of the basic things that a man, and we talking men, y'all, it's Men's Month. We ain't ignoring the sisters, but this Men's Month, and we talking men. Many of the things that many of the people that have been validated by church titles and positions have done people a disservice because it has not been a demand put on basic manhood, being able to provide. How do you feel about that?
You are right on point. The thing is, here we are, and that happens oftentimes. It is, we become somewhat stagnant because of the position of people pleasing. And what you said and what I say now is we can't please people. Yes, it's not about your talk. You just said it. It's about your walk. It's about what you're doing. And let's go to even the Bible. How can a man in any way be what he's supposed to be in the church if he can't take care of his own home? And I mean, I know we're talking about a bishop and a pastor, whatever, but it's across the board. We want to get into a place where somebody is just calling our name. The only person that I want to hear calling my name is God. And when God is calling my name, I'm listening to what he has to say, because it's not just about me sharing on Sunday morning. I've learned something, Marvin. I'm now, like I said, 33 years, and I've learned something. I ain't got to preach to impress nobody. That's not what I do. And I think that's because the glamour and the glory that has been formally expressed and even sometimes shown today is, the attention that we get. And so that's what our minds is on. My mind is far from that. I ain't worried about I could preach a sermon in my sleep. You can call me now and preach a sermon. I can preach a sermon. It's not about what I preach. It's about what I live. And so I think you're on point. When we started, I just said order, Marvin. I just said that. When we start addressing the order of life versus the anxiety of doing something that I need. And I'm not saying this young man is not called. It could be very well called. But what are you called to do? Are you called for order that you're going to walk? And then if he comes to you, here is what bothers me. If he's coming to you and he recognizes the gifting in your life, he will receive from you and not run because you point him in a direction that he needs to be going. Here's the problem, Marvin. We get these young guys who come, they got gifts, they got talents, but they don't want to yield. And if you don't want to yield, so what they do is they say, well, if you ain't gonna let me preach, I'm gonna preach somewhere else. I tell people all the time, I've birthed 50-some sons and daughters in the ministry, and they go through my class. They've been through theological school, they've been through other schools, but they sit and they learn under me, and they understand that they're not going to preach until they go through the entire class. But you get folk who can't take that, so I'm gonna just take my stuff and go somewhere else. That shows something is wrong. Order, because you first came to me and said you trust me as a spiritual head. If you trust me as a spiritual head, then listen to me and I will guide and direct you. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about the order of God. I've had many that come to me and get upset with me because I didn't let them preach right away. They get upset. That doesn't bother me. I always tell people, you get upset, take a ticket, stand in line. There are many people who get upset with me. That doesn't bother me. It never has and it never will. I'm going to walk in kingdom order. This situation that we're talking about, not only with fatherhood, but the change, in poor homes, it ain't because y'all haven't done the work. You walked in order. You don't get what you get in poor homes because you just standing around idly and watching. You get what you get in poor homes because you're out there daily. You're talking, you're communicating the message of Christ. You're praying on the corner yourself. You're walking with the brothers yourself. Is order. So when somebody comes to me, they got to come in order, Marvin. They can't say, okay, God called me. Now you just let me do what I want you to do. Or what I want to do. You can't tell that to me. And especially if I'm looking at your life. Here's the thing, Marvin, as a young pastor, you've already learned you cannot people please. See, the problem is in the pastorate, we start people pleasing. And so we let this one do it and the next one expects it. One thing I have as a pastor of the Lord's church that I get people to get mad at me. You know why they get mad at me, Marvin? Because I'm consistent. I'm not wavering back and forth. Get mad at me because I'm consistent. If I do it for one, I'm going to do it to. I don't care who you are. We're going to do it the right way. And what you did in this young man's life is important because he needs to value the walk of life and not just the talk of life.
Bishop, one of the things that we encounter when we start talking about fatherhood, whether we talking in or outside of church, is legitimacy. When we start talking about the legitimacy of credentials and you 33 years in, and not that time is the thing that qualifies solely, but when you see the legitimacy or the bishopric and all of these apostles and things of that nature, and taking a stern look at the legitimacy of process, procedure, validation, consecration, those who are laying hands on. I told you, I've met bishops, ain't got no church, nothing, right? When we start talking, come on, Bishop, I'm trying to be straight face here.
No, because we got to go there.
When we talk about the legitimacy of these things, because these are then looked at, this is the bishopric and the apostolic. This is where we look at fatherhood in the kingdom. Talk to us about the necessity of legitimacy and what is happening, what it does to the church when we don't have that.
The problem is with the desire to have a title. You know, now we're in the area where it's now bishop, apostle, and, we got to be called that. I came up in the era, Marvin, where everybody was called doc. You had to be a doc this, doc this. It's about the title. And what you said is so poignant because, first of all, the title of bishop itself is an overseer. If you are not overseeing anything, how do you carry that title? Now, I mean, they're going to have, you get me in trouble, Marvin. You get in trouble. They're going to have people who have problems.
I think these are the conversations we need to have, Bishop. We got to talk about this because it's doing major damage to the legitimacy of the church, not so much God, but of the church itself.
It's not doing a damage to God. You're right. What it's doing is setting us back in the atmosphere of or the place called the church house. God is who he is. God's going to get the glories. God's going to get the praise. But what it does is causes confusion amongst the rank. I mean, people, especially today, we're dealing with a generation that don't even know what a pastor is. Then you're going to throw all the rest of these titles at them. And then when they ask you to explain, you can't even legitimately explain why you're walking in that particular title. I get it all the time. Well, what do you mean you're a bishop? What does that mean? I said, well, I started as a pastor. I birthed children in the ministry. They went out and they came back and asked me to oversee them. I'm overseeing ministries. It's not the title that I carry. And I told them even in the beginning, I don't even want to do this. They said, Pastor, you already doing it. You already given us the wisdom. You already given us insight from what you've had. You're already training us. You're doing these things. So we want to honor you. It wasn't what I asked for. It's what they came and said, we want to honor you. I'm saying, Marvin, when you're living right, that's what people will do in your life. You don't have to boast for yourself. You will have people who will come around you and say, this is what you want to do. And I said, even when I heard you say 3 years, you weren't much on celebrations. Marvin, I didn't even take a vacation the first 15 years of ministry. I was concerned it was this, that, and the other. But God said, this ain't yours, son. It's mine. Let me do what I do. And so now I walk in a different mindset. I've got to make sure that I am listening to him and doing what he's called me to do. And God bless the bishops, the apostles, the whatever. I have to make sure that I'm right. All of that other stuff, it doesn't matter. That's why I'm out there with y'all, man. The people be like, Bishop, you can't do this. What do you mean I can't do this? I'm trying to pick up, though, Bishop, you can. Yes, I can, because somebody needs to see that a bishop really does this. Somebody needs to understand that a bishop will walk the streets like he's supposed to walk because he's a servant. I'm a servant first. And so we need to understand the order of things. And it is, again, somewhat an insult to a church, but not an insult to God, because God is going to be glorified. There's always a remnant that's going to do what God told them to do. There's a remnant that's going to follow him. There's a remnant that's going to do the work. And out of all this, and I'm in the Bible because he says there are already false prophets out here. That's what the Bible says. So y'all don't have to look at me strange and look at me funny. The Bible says they're already here. They're already doing stuff to entice you, to tickle your ears, to make you feel good where you are. The gospel was never set to make you feel good where you are. The gospel is driven to make you do what God has called you to do. And sometimes we don't feel good about what we're doing. When we get that hard word, that raw word, that word that meets us right where we need to be, sometimes it's a little tight. But when we're doing it right, the victory is there because we yield to the word. And so, again, when we look at the succession of things that are happening in church, sometimes it makes you want to cry, because there are folk who are doing all kinds of stuff, but then you remember who you are. And so you got to say, I'm not in it for them. I'm not in it for that. I'm in it for him. And if I'm in it for him, I'm in it to win it. I'm going to win. I'm going to be successful. And prayerfully, others will see the model of this example and say, you know, that's what God really wants us to do. He don't want all of this foolishness and this fake stuff. Can I say there's some fake stuff out here? Because God said it in his word. He said, you got to be careful. There are men who are wolves in sheep's clothing.
Well, Bishop, let me jump in and talk, because that's the next thing I wanted to talk to you about. What about the people out here who are trusted to be that father figure that's doing damage to a generation of up and coming leaders or young people? You really are. You have good intentions and you yielding. And that person, because they don't have integrity, that's in that role of a bishop or a pastor, is doing damage. Talk to them. Talk to those fathers who are out here damaging people who are trusting them to be leaders and creating a whole new generation of people who have what we call church hurt or damage because they're misappropriating that trust.
There's a weight to this situation. A W-A-I-T and a W-E-I-G-H. There's a weight and a weight to the situation. We have to understand one thing that's happening now. For those of us who are walking right, we have to be patient in our walk, because there will always be those who are walking according to the lust of the world, the lust of the flesh, the pride of life, the lust of the eye. There are those who are walking that way. And unfortunately, some of them are in high places. Of course, that's what the word says. We don't even wrestle against flesh and blood, but we wrestle against the principalities and wickedness in high places. And so we understand that. And so those of us who are doing the work must continue to do the work with the Isaiah patience, that wait, that they that wait on the Lord, he shall renew their strength, and they shall mount up with wings as the eagle. They shall run and not get weary, walk and not faint. That's that wait. But then there's another wait, that W-E-H-I-G-H-T, rather, I should say, wait. Those who are doing these things, they will pay the consequences without question. That's going to happen. That's going to be, because God is not a man that he should lie. And so those who are being deceitful, those who are sowing confusion, those who are, he calls them, be careful, beware of the dogs and the concision, those who bite. Therefore, there is something that's going to happen to them. I can't even put on them what's going to happen to them. You can't. What we have to do is be patient and make sure that we are not doing what they're doing. We're doing what we are assigned to do and called to do. And sometimes I have to say that sometimes it gets a little bothersome, because you see folk that you know that are not doing the right thing, and yet it seems like there's a glory cloud around them. that's ever so false. There's no glory cloud around them. They're just getting the praise and the applaud of men. That means nothing after a while, because the same people that praise and applaud you one day will be the same people that tear you down the next.
So Bishop, I got two more that I want to get in there to you.
I know. I just run on.
No. You good. Because we still in the same lane, the same vein, right? I know I heard God call me. I know I heard him. I ain't out here. I didn't even want it, but I know I heard God, right? But for the sake of keeping numbers in the church, my spiritual father won't send me out to do what we all know God called me to do. So I got to break covenant and go out here, and now I'm going out here hurt and damaged. Talk to us.
There are so many who are damaged in ministry or in walls. Let me say that. Let's take that back. Not ministry. Who damaged in walls. One of the things that we must begin to see and begin to understand as it relates to church, and especially church hurt. We know that just like you and I get up in the morning, get dressed and go to church, that the enemy sends his folk. He sends them. You know, they look like us, they act like us, they dress like us, but they come with a plan to destroy us. And so the thing is, there are many people who've been hurt in the walls, but you've got to look past the walls. What is the spiritual implication that is being shown here? It's not, I can't be, God can't be judged by me, even though he called me. I may make a mistake, but God doesn't make mistakes. And so what I tell the people that have been hurt in the church, first of all, one of the problems is, Marvin, and most people don't like when I say this, when you went to the church, did you go because you felt good, or did you go because God told you to? Did you go because it was a nice church, or did you go because God told you to? Did you make the decision on an emotional high of a service where the preacher whipped you into a frenzy, or did you join because God told you to? There is a difference. And when you do things, again, out of order, it leads to chaos. And so there are many people who've been hurt in churches because they weren't told by God to be there. They placed themselves. I think it was William Augustus Jones who said there are two types of people in the church: those whom the Lord add, and those whom add themselves.
So I got another one for you, Bishop. I'm 101 years old, and I die as the pastor, bishop of the church. No succession plan, and the church sits 3-4 years with no leader because it hasn't been properly prepared. We talking about kingdom fatherhood, and I'm just bringing up some of the things that I've seen firsthand. There's been no plan of succession. Nobody knows how to move. You're 105 years old. Everybody know you ain't gonna be here too much longer, but there's nothing put in place because you're holding on to that seat so long.
You know why, right?
Set any order. No, I know why, but I want you to
know why, right? You know why. Because it's all about you. It isn't about the kingdom. The kingdom is not about an individual. And we have to come to grips with. You know what, Marvin? 4 years ago, really, when I started talking about a succession plan from the Lord's church, and I'm 61. Lord willing, I'll be 62 this year. And I start talking about a succession plan for the Lord's church. And I would get some of the older folk that come to me and say, "You too young to name a pastor to your church." Where I grew up in the church, both my grandfathers were preachers. One was the Baptist preacher in Baltimore and grew ministry. No succession plan. I grew up and I watched churches struggle with this candidacy thing after the preacher dies. And like you said, he ain't gonna be there forever. So, and guess what? There have been ministers on staff since they were 1 year old. They've been there all their lives, and they get looked over. No, you can't do this because you're not qualified. And it's a shame that ministry has come to a place where it's based on just one individual. It's not. We have a succession plan because we've seen what the church has been through. Lord willing that if something happens to me, this church continues to move because the pastor is already in place and he already knows the heartbeat of the ministry because he served there for 21 years. So do I go out? I just saw it happen in another church. The pastor went out and picked somebody else. Are you growing these people in the ministry? Are you grooming these people in the ministry? Do they see something in you? And here's the problem that most people have. I don't want to be like my father in ministry. You're going to be like your father in ministry if he is the father who you need him to be. I want my son growing up saying, I want to be like my daddy because my daddy is doing the right thing. I want to speak and talk and walk like my daddy because my daddy has been an example. Remember, Marvin, I said from the beginning, the family is the structure, the order of the church. And so when God created family, he created that for the ministry. And so if my son understands who I am as a father, my children understand that. They want to be like their daddy. But we got too many of these folk who come in and say, I ain't being like my father in the ministry. Oh, I ain't going to be like. No, if that's your real father in the ministry, you're going to take on some of his characteristics and some of his traits because he's teaching you the right and proper thing. And so if I'm teaching the right and proper thing, when it's time for succession of the ministry, you mean I'm going to skip over my children? You think that I'm going to sow in somebody else's field before I take care of my home? The devil is a liar. I didn't take all of these years to raise these ministers in the ministry to be an example for them, to teach them, to skip them and go get somebody else and say, here is Joe Blow. He's going to be your next pastor. We need to grow the ministry from within. We need to stop looking for other stuff. You might have, if you listen to me, you might have a ministry of 2 people or 10,000 people. You need to take care of what you have, and you need to nurture that in such a way that it is ready to move in your living and your dying. Because it ain't promised to none of us. And so I understand, Marvin. I think it's a mess when we got a group of people going at, and most people at that point, of course, I was born and raised Baptist. They don't want pastors. They want puppets. A board that controls the church? No. Not here, not living. I tell the folk all the time, the Lord called me to found the Lord's church. I ain't going nowhere. So if anybody leaves, it's not going to be me because I'm clear what he called me to do. And we're going to take care of this ministry as such. I'm not being like I'm some strong man. I'm strong in my convictions. I know what he called me to do. I know what he wants me to do. And I realize it's bigger than me. It's bigger than us, Marvin. And when we understand that, we will get things in order. But when it's just about us, we hold on to everything we can. And after a while, guess what? What we were holding on, we can't even hold on to no more.
You on live with the Chop Shop. My producer is sending stuff across the ticker because I have not said it one time. Bishop Elliott is giving us what we came here for. You on live with the Chop Shop. We come to you every Thursday at 6 p.m. We are talking to the great man of God, the Bishop of the Lord's Church, Bishop Kevia Elliott. If you'd like to make a donation to the show, all of the money that's donated to the show goes into the show. That's at $ the Chop Shop Be More. That's $ the Chop Shop Be More, no capital letters. Bishop Elliott, when we look at the church in context, and we get ready to come down the stretch, this may be our last question, but when we look at the entirety of the church in context, where you as a father, an apostolic father, a father figure, God said he would never leave us. He would be a father to the fatherless. You being a father figure that has a true heart for the community, a heart for the church, a heart for the people of God. Speak to fathers. Speak to fatherhood, whether it's a person that's just a father in their own house, a father of the community, or you a father in the church, a man in the church, about the importance of fatherhood if we're ever going to see our people get to where God is trying to lead us.
There is for us to understand once again, a God who has created all of this. And if he has created all of this, we must lend ourselves to his plan for our lives. There is no man who is going to be a father without God in his life. Without Jesus Christ, to me, I mean, everything else is void. I mean, I do everything in the faith of Christ Jesus. Everything that I do is because of him. I even walk the streets now because of him. And so, fathers, I am pleading with you for the sake of your children, for the sake of your family. There is an order that has been created by the master planner. And what we have to do is decide whether we're going to choose his way or our way. There are only two choices that we make in life. It's either his way or our way. And when we yield to him, we will begin to see the benefits of our blessings. You know, I'm blessed because I'm saved. That's why I'm blessed. But there are so many benefits that I have as it relates to my salvation. You know, people say I'm blessed. People think about blessed because I have, you know, certain things. No. You are blessed when you have a relationship with Jesus Christ. I'm pleading with fathers that are watching right now who may be wondering why things are not going the way that they're supposed to be going. I'm telling you, there is an order for your life. And the first thing is that you must fall down on your face and say to God, I need you. I need to walk in your way, not my way. I need to understand the cross. I need to understand the garden where Jesus would say, not my will, but thy will be done. I need that right now. And so, fathers, your life will never be whole. Y'all better hear me today. You might have a whole lot of things, but your life will never be whole. You know, I joke every now and then. I was supposed to be, I thought anyway, a star athlete because I was good coming up. I thought I was going to be there. My kids joke every now and then and say, Dad, you know, you could have really made a lot of money. We could have had a lot of money if you would have played NFL on Sunday mornings. But the joy that they have now can never be replaced by a dollar. And I think as we chase the wrong thing, we get the wrong thing. But when we look to God for what we need, when our answer comes from the Christ who is in us, it compels us to do what is right. I don't do what is right just because Kevia wants to do it. Marvin, I'm compelled because I am complete in him. I know that now. And all I have to do is yield to that. He says you are complete. I got folk who are running around saying, I got to do this and I got to do it. You've got to have that relationship. Read your Bible. In him dwelt the fullness of the Godhead bodily, and you are complete. Stop walking around saying I'm missing something. Salvation makes you full and whole. It makes you new. You got to walk in it and stop looking for other stuff. And so it is the relationship, Marvin, that makes a father who we ought to be. No relationship, no true fatherhood, no relationship, no true father figure, no relationship. And I know kids say, you know, I had a good dad or whatever, and he may have been an alcoholic, he may have been a drunk, or he might have been a drug addict or whatever. But he was a good dad walks in the order of God. And until we say that over and over and live that over and over, I don't want you to just hear me. Knock on my door and see me. I am a good dad because of God, not because of what I have, what I drive, where I live, where I worship. I am a good dad because there is a relationship. When you know God for yourself, he will add what you need in your life every day for his goodwill and pleasure. Some of the things that I do, Marvin, I don't even understand, but then I begin to see it's for his goodwill and pleasure. And then when you fulfill his goodwill and pleasure, there is no greater feeling. No dollar could do it. No house could do it. No car could do it. No church could do it. You know it, Marvin. You on cloud 9 right now, 3 years in. and you don't have no major house, you don't have all that stuff. But if I said, Marvin, are you excited about what the Lord is doing in your life? You will quickly answer, yes, I am. I may not have silver and gold, riches, fancy, the fortune of others, but what I have,
what I do have,
relationship with Jesus. And Jesus, as the old folk used to say, is all the world to me.
Bishop, we want to thank you so much for being with us tonight. I honor God for who you are in the kingdom of God and who you are specifically in my life and who you've been to the show. Of course, you'll be a continued voice on this platform because we are clear that this platform, I had somebody ask me the other day, you don't do the politics no more? Man, we are the platform where the kingdom and the community collide. If it means addressing murder, we'll address murder. If it means addressing politics, we'll address politics. But when we talk about the kingdom and the community collide, and I don't believe there's a leader in the community that does it as well, and as ferociously as you do, Bishop Elliott. So we thank you for your example as a man and as a man of God, to be a true father figure, not by your words, but by your influence and your example to the city of Baltimore. I also got to thank my right hand and my left hand, my main man, Mr. Shaka Pitts on the ones and twos. Shot. Thank you for always keeping it light, keeping it fly. I was checking out your comments. Bishop was on fire tonight.
He was talking.
My son, can I say this before you close? I know, and listen, y'all, he's never said anything to me, but I'm saying tonight, join me. Shaka, if you could run that, what is it called? Cash App. If you could run that one more time. Join me tonight in sowing into this chop shop. Will you join me tonight in sowing into this? Because it's important. This man is doing a great work, and it's not about him. He understands it's about the order of God. We need to sow into the chop. There it is, $ the chop shop. More, be more. Let's sow together. Let's support. And here is the thing. We need to support each other. We need to build each other. I watched a little clip, and I got to say this, and then I'm finished, of a white preacher, and I don't know if y'all know it, is going around on Facebook. It was a white lady, and she was standing for a white congregation, and she said something similar to this, and I don't want to quote her directly, but she said, I want y'all to stand if you would want to be treated like a black person is treated right now. I want y'all to stand. And they just looked at her. She said, maybe y'all don't understand my question. I said, stand if you know that you want to be treated like a black person is treated. And none of them stood. And she said, you know why y'all not standing? Because y'all know they're being treated wrong. It's time for us to treat each other right. Sow into this man's ministry. And in your sowing, you shall reap according to the word of God. I just had to say that, Marvin. I'm done.
Bishop, I thank you. I need y'all to join us next week as our very special guest to close out this month of Father Talk. It's going to be the one and only Bishop Brian K. Martin. He just sent me his confirmation. And listen, we're going to talk about rings and robes versus true apostolic fatherhood, y'all. And y'all know he's going to bring the fire. Bishop Brian K. Martin will be our guest to close out this month of fatherhood. I always say, trust God. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not to thy own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. Be the change that you want to see. I want to see change in the Poe Homes community and in the city of Baltimore. I put wheels on my heels, and we get out here in these streets and we make it happen. Love where you are and be the change that you want it to be. But always remember, above and beyond anything else, remember that we can truly be more. Thank you for joining us tonight, and I love each and every one of you.
I can be more. There's nothing that I can achieve if I just believe. You can be more. You can make every dream a reality. We can be more. Be more, be more.
Yeah.
I can be more.
I wake up every day and try to be more. I pray I be more. It's easy to achieve anything you believe. Like hold your head high. Girl, you got a reason to breathe. I see a rare mind. Boy, you got a reason to dream. Let's take flight. Give the children a reason to see redemption. We grow up in the jacks where it's evil and wicked. Where the